If crime had a leaderboard, these states would be fighting for first place. Welcome back, World According to Briggs. Today we're counting down the 10 states seeing crime rates rise faster than humidity in Florida between 2020 and 2025. Strap in, this one's quite a ride. Number 10, Tennessee. Tennessee has always been the state that tries really hard to pretend everything's fine. Beautiful mountains? Yes. Musical history? Absolutely. Crime? Just a mild case they try and ignore. Sort of like a raccoon you hope wanders off. Except lately, that raccoon learned how to get in your front door, rummage through your refrigerator, and steal your underwear. In the last few years, Tennessee has seen a spike in both violent and property crime, which is an impressive combination if your goal is to keep people guessing. Memphis continues to lead the nation in places where you need a security camera for your security camera. And Nashville, once the land of Broadway optimism, now feels like someone spilled trouble all over the honky-tonk district and never wiped it up. Memphis actually is one of the most violent cities we have in the United States. But in Tennessee, it's not just Memphis. Small rural towns are seeing a serious jump in crime over the last handful of years. A lot of it has to do with addiction problems. That is actually where Tennessee's seen the highest rise in crime. As for violent crime, the state hasn't exactly turned the corner. Tennessee's been hovering well above the national average, and the latest jump puts it firmly in the yikes territory. There's a lot of things going on in Tennessee that are good. Their crime rate climbing is definitely not one of them. From 2020 to 2025, their overall crime rate jumped 19.3%. Number 9, Louisiana. Louisiana has been dealing with crime for decades, but the rate increase recently jumped like a cat seeing a cucumber. I don't understand what that is. Someone puts a cucumber down on the ground, their cat walks around the corner and freaks out. I shouldn't be surprised every time I come home and see like someone's wedding invitation on my table, I do the same thing. God, I hate wearing a suit. The state's big cities have always had a tough reputation. New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Shreveport. But the last few years have turned that dial up from problematic to somebody please call somebody. New Orleans alone has had a crime cycle that looks like a roller coaster built by someone who hates stability. One year the numbers drop and everyone celebrates. The next year it's back up and people start Googling, is it legal to build my own moat? Louisiana's economy hasn't recovered evenly. And when jobs evaporate faster than crawfish at a family cookout, crime tends to rise. Add in a struggling education system, high poverty rates, and a criminal justice system that works about as reliably as a gas station slushy machine, and you've got a recipe for chaos. But through it all, Louisiana remains as cultural gold. Music, food, history, but the crime rise, that's a side dish no one ordered. Their overall crime rate since 2020 has jumped 23.7%. Number 8, Arizona. Arizona, the land of heat, cacti, insane drivers, and crime rates that decided to start climbing like they were trying to get away from the sun. Phoenix used to be the place retirees went to golf and slowly turn into leather. Now it's also a place where crime is rising so quickly that the local police have considered installing a blinking sign that says, "Try not to commit crime today." Violent crime has seen some worrying increases, especially aggravated assaults, which makes up a majority of Arizona's crime. Arizonans don't scream or argue, they just get into throwing punches and pulling guns these days, I guess. But it's not just violent crime, they've also seen an increase in property crimes over the last few years. As jobs go away, people start stealing stuff. That's just how it's always been. They've got a lot of problems. One of the biggest ones is growth has outpaced infrastructure. Infrastructure outpaced common sense, and common sense gave up in the summer of 2023, when the sidewalks melted for the 4th time. Add in a housing squeeze and job market pressures, and Arizona's crime climb starts to make more sense. Still not great, but at least it's understandable. Whenever you have a place that has too many people, and Arizona is struggling to keep up with the mass of people that have showed up there the last decade or so, more people means more problems, simple as that. The overall crime rate in Arizona has climbed 24.1% since 2020. Number 7, Alabama. Alabama has always been one of those places where people argued about football more than anything else. But lately they've had something new to argue about, rising crime rates. Alabama has watched its numbers climb like it's trying to make it to the playoffs in the most concerning trends in America. The state wasn't exactly a safety paradise before, but the recent increase has pushed it into a new category. The violent crime rate has been ticking upward in several different metros, with Birmingham leading the charge. Birmingham's a disgrace, honestly. Their crime rates are insane. Mobile and Montgomery aren't exactly slacking either. Both have seen jumps at assaults, shootings, and robberies that make locals ask, is this just how Tuesdays go now? And while small towns in Alabama try and make it sound like there's nothing wrong there and everything's peachy and everything's perfect, the data shows otherwise. A lot of rural counties are seeing increases too, especially in aggravated assault, which is basically Alabama's unofficial pastime whenever someone's not bringing up Auburn versus Alabama. The property crime? Yep, it's raising too. Break-ins, car thefts, and somebody took my entire air conditioning unit stories are becoming more common. Alabama has this fun mix of old housing, economic stress, and limited community resources that make property crime spread faster than the gossip at a family barbecue. Even the suburbs around Huntsville and Birmingham have reported rising theft numbers, which is ironic because half of the houses there have at least 3 Ring cameras. A big part of the issue is economic pressure. Alabama is one of the poorest states in the country, and when wages stay low while inflation takes a victory lap, tensions grow. Add in understaffed police departments, rural areas with barely any officers around, throw in a little extra heavy drug use and political disagreements, and you have a cocktail that becomes a nightmare. Now, Alabama is still a state with tremendous southern charm, strong communities, and some of the best food in America, but it's also dealing with a crime spike that has become harder to ignore. Their overall crime rate has risen by 24.5%. Number 6, New Mexico. New Mexico has always had one of the highest violent crime rates in the nation, but the increase in recent years is what landed it on this list. Picture a graph that climbs steadily upward like it's trying to summit Everest. Albuquerque leads the charge, a city with amazing culture, incredible food, and enough crime statistics to fill a spin-off channel called Breaking Laws. Property crime especially has risen at a rate that makes local double-check their locks, then double-check their double-check. New Mexico's challenges are deep: generational poverty, rural isolation, substance abuse issues, and a shortage of law enforcement officers that would make a Wild West sheriff raise an eyebrow. There's so much potential in this state, and yet the crime rate keeps climbing like they've gotten rid of all their police officers and gone into the honor system. The overall crime rate has risen 26.2% since 2020 in New Mexico. Number 5, Florida. Florida is a state that's always in the news. Hurricanes, wild stories, iguanas falling from trees, like they're doing a trust exercise gone wrong. But now it's also seeing one of the fastest rising crime rates in the country. It's not that Florida was ever, this quiet Mayberry place. No, far from it. But over the years, people just kind of look at it and go, that's just Florida being Florida. Violent crime rates have spiked in several of the major metro areas, especially Orlando, Jacksonville, and Miami. And while each city has its own flavor of chaos, they're all part of the same statewide pattern. More assaults, more robberies, more homicides, and a whole lot of people going to funerals on Wednesdays. Miami's crime increase seems to follow a trail of skyrocketing housing costs because nothing says community tension like your rent eating 70% of your paycheck. Orlando, meanwhile, is dealing with the rapid population growth and police staffing crunches that would make Disney rethink calling itself the happiest place on earth. Property crime is also rising. Florida is experiencing more break-ins, auto thefts, and swindles. Though, to be fair, being scammed in Florida is practically a cultural rite of passage. A few metros have seen a serious increase of retail theft, especially organized retail theft when a whole bunch of people just flood into a store and start grabbing stuff. Eventually, the neighborhood just has a whole lot of empty storefronts. Then, of course, there's the statewide affordability crisis. Insurance prices are climbing like they're trying to escape the state entirely. Housing costs are doing CrossFit, and wages, they're not climbing. Now, when you have problems like that, it just leads to more crime. Human beings will find a way to get by, and if you can't get by with a job, you start doing stuff to try and get by. Sure, some people are just criminals and that's what they do, but when you're not making ends meet and you're just a normal citizen, it makes it a little easier to cross over and do something illegal to make a couple extra bucks or whatever you got to do, steal groceries. Florida remains a beautiful, warm state, but it's definitely seeing crime rise faster than most Americans realize. And no, you don't get a prize for guessing which part of the state is rising the fastest. It's all of them, because Florida likes to overachieve in weird categories. Their overall crime rate is up 27.6% since 2020. Number 4, Colorado. Colorado, land of mountains, microbrews, Subaru commercials, and crime increases that nobody expected. For years, Colorado has been the golden child of the West. Safe, clean, healthy, outdoorsy. Then it woke up one day and said, what if we tried chaos? The state has seen a rise in property crime, auto theft, organized retail theft again, at levels that made some cities consider chaining down shopping carts. Denver's struggles have been the most public, a mix of homelessness, drug issues, and police staffing shortages. But other cities like Aurora and Pueblo have also contributed to the rising numbers. Colorado's population boom created a strain on the housing market, rising living costs, and a whole lot of people feeling financially trapped. When rents rise 30 to 50% in just a few years, crime tends to follow that frustration. Add in political fights about policing, a fentanyl crisis, and rapid urbanization, and you get a recipe for a crime increase that nobody asked for. Colorado's overall crime rate has risen 31.1% since 2020. Number 3, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania doesn't always make crime headlines, mostly because people are too busy arguing over which is better, Philly or Pittsburgh. But in recent years, crime rates, particularly violent crime rates, have been rising at a pace that pulls the state into uncomfortable territory. Philadelphia's homicide numbers have surged over the last decade, hitting record-setting levels that had residents saying, yeah, so we're going to talk about this, right? Meanwhile, carjackings went up so fast in Philly, people don't get attached to their cars anymore. They just drive it till someone takes it, and the insurance buys them a new one. Pittsburgh, once one of the safest big metros, also saw an increase, though less dramatic than Philly. Even some mid-sized Philadelphia cities are seeing crimes rise tied to economic stagnation, population decline, and the aftershocks of the opioid crisis. The state's mix of urban struggles, rural poverty, and political stalemates creates a perfect storm where crime spikes and no one agrees on the cause. The only thing they do agree on, it's bad. Pennsylvania's seen their overall crime rate jump 31.3% since 2020. Number 2, Missouri. Missouri already had crime problems, but the rate of increase recently has been concerning enough for national reports to flag it repeatedly. St. Louis and Kansas City have continued to show up on top 10 most violent city lists. Now, Kansas City alone saw its homicide rate skyrocket in the early 2020s, repeatedly setting or approaching record highs. Meanwhile, St. Louis, which has been battling crime issues for decades, saw spikes that made long-term residents shake their heads like, we've seen this before, but not this bad. Missouri's issues are complex. Tough education disparities, generational poverty, law enforcement shortages, and a criminal justice system that basically needs a software update. Add in political gridlock and under-resourced communities, and the numbers go up faster than rent in Austin, Texas. Smaller Missouri cities aren't immune either. Springfield, Independence, even some of the rural counties have seen rising violent crime trends that feel more unsettling than you get in the big cities. Missouri saw a 33.5% increase in overall crime since 2020. All right, before we get to number 1, if you have not subscribed to this channel, we'd really appreciate it if you did. Also, at the end of this video, if you liked what we're doing here, there's another video. Maybe watch one of those that's being suggested to you. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Alaska. If you thought Alaska was all moose, fishermen, and people living in cabins where the nearest neighbor is like 11 miles away and named something like Thor Gunderson, think again. Alaska has one of the fastest rising violent crime rates in the nation, especially assaults, domestic violence, and crimes tied to rural isolation. Alaska's numbers have been rough for years, but the rate of increase recently earned it the top spot on this list. The state faces unique issues: limited law enforcement coverage in massive rural regions, low emergency response times, high rates of substance abuse, and logistical challenges that would overwhelm any system. Some Alaskan communities are hundreds of miles from the nearest court, and sometimes the nearest cop is a plane ride away. Mix all that in with economic instability, expensive costs of living, and long dark winters that turn cabin fever into a full-time job, and crime can escalate quickly. Cities like Anchorage and Fairbanks carry their share of the numbers too. Rising violent crimes, theft issues, and meth-related cases continue to push statistics higher. Alaska is beautiful, but the crime rise is real. even if criminals sometimes have to schedule their crimes around moose migrations. The overall crime rate in Alaska has risen 36.4% since 2020. Alright, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, maybe watch one of those videos being suggested right now. Alright everyone, have a great day. Be nice to each other.